If you've been scrolling through a dozen air compressors, reading the specs, watching unboxing videos, and still feel like you're stuck in a loop of indecision, you're not alone. The market throws a lot of jargon at UCFM, duty cycle, oil-free versus oil-lubricated, and it's easy to wonder whether any of those numbers actually translate into real-world usefulness. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk through the Quincy QD7.5 Splash, lay out where it shines, where it trips, and help you decide if it's the right fit for your shop or garage. Let's start with the problem most people face when buying a compressor. You either end up with a tiny tank that runs out of air the moment you start a decent job, or you splurge on a massive unit that sits idle most of the time and eats up space. The QD7.5 tries to land in the middle, big enough to keep a paint sprayer going for a solid half hour, but packaged vertically so it doesn't dominate the floor. That's a practical compromise, but it also means you have to consider a few hidden trade-offs before you click Add to Cart. First off, the 80-gallon vertical tank is the biggest selling point for anyone who needs sustained airflow. If you're a hobbyist who occasionally tackles a car restoration, the extra capacity means you won't be stopping every few minutes to let the compressor refill. In a real-world scenario, I've seen a small body shop use a similar-sized tank to keep a spray gun and a sandblaster running together, no pauses, no frantic timer watching. That continuous run time is where you really start feeling the value beyond the headline horsepower. Speaking of horsepower, the 7.5 HP motor sits comfortably in the mid-range for a unit of this size. It's strong enough to push a decent volume of air through most pneumatic tools without the motor bogging down. In practice, I've watched owners use it to power a 1/2-inch CH impact wrench, a nail gun, and a paint gun all in one session, and the motor kept a steady hum without stalling. That kind of versatility matters if you're the type of DIYer who likes to keep a toolbox full of pneumatic options. Now, the Splash lubricated part of the name is where things get a little nuanced. Unlike oil-free compressors that promise zero maintenance, splash lubrication means the crankshaft dips into an oil reservoir as it turns, coating moving parts in a thin film. For most users, this translates to smoother operation and longer life, especially under heavy use. The downside? You'll need to check the oil level periodically and change it according to the manufacturer's schedule. If you're comfortable with a quick dip of the dipstick every few months, that's a minor chore. If you'd rather never think about oil, you might lean toward an oil-free alternative. Noise is another real-world factor that often gets buried in spec sheets. The QD7.5 isn't a whisper-quiet machine, but because it's a reciprocating design with a fairly large tank, the noise level settles into a consistent, low mid-range after the initial startup surge. In a garage that's also a workshop, that steady hum blends into the background rather than sounding like a jackhammer. However, if you share a space with a home office or a living area, the noise could be a consideration. You'll probably want to invest in a decent set of ear protection or consider placing the unit on a rubber mat to dampen vibrations. Power requirements are often the surprise that trips first-time buyers. The QD7.5 runs on 230V single-phase, which in many U.S. residential settings means you'll need a dedicated 240V circuit. That's not a deal-breaker, but it does add a small electrical installation step if your garage only has standard 120V outlets. For a shop that already runs a table saw or a large welder, the extra circuit is probably already there. For a casual hobbyist, you might need to call an electrician, which adds cost and planning time. Let's talk about the footprint. The vertical orientation is clever. It stands about waist height, leaving the floor open for a workbench or a set of tires. The unit itself weighs close to 400 pounds, so moving it isn't something you'll do on a whim. Once it's in place, though, the tank's shape makes it easy to slide a roll of hose or a few buckets underneath, which is a small but nice ergonomic win in a cramped garage. Who should buy the Quincy QD7.5? If you run a small auto repair shop, a woodworking shop that relies on pneumatic sanders, or you're a serious DIYer who frequently tackles projects that need a paint gun or a tire inflator, this compressor hits a sweet spot. Its tank size gives you a buffer for multi-tool jobs, and the 7.5 HP motor provides enough grunt to keep those tools running at full speed. The splash lubrication means you'll get durability as long as you keep up with oil checks, and the